Hello and welcome back. Today we are starting a new project. If you saw my recent review video for this Treadspeeder, you will know that I bought it with the intention of customizing it and putting it with my Black Series figures. Unfortunately, I feel it's a little too small to sit properly with the Black Series figures, and I ended up having the idea that instead of customizing it and leaving it as sort of a playable toy or whatever, I would in fact essentially turn this into a statue. I'm going to work in a base and I'm going to make a little scene out of this. As you can see, I've started some work on it. I've taken a file and I've filed away all of the legal copyright info, which was here. You can sort of just about see the copyright logo there. I've also taken some green stuff and filled in the screw holes. If you're not familiar with, and I had until yesterday when I filled in the screw holes, I have never ever used green stuff before. In fact, I don't think I'd ever even really heard of it. I think I'd seen sort of them in the Warhammer shops and things like that, but I hadn't really got an idea on what they are. So it is a epoxy putty. You mix the two pieces together, so blue and yellow strip. Where did I put mine? Okay, I can't. I was tidying up and now I can't find my putty, but it's two strips of blue and yellow putties. You mix a little bit together and it becomes a very sticky, tacky putty, almost like a bubble gum. At least that's what it was like for me when I was using it yesterday, and it's moldable into whatever you really want. So it isn't necessary just for filling model lines or holes or anything like that. You could use it to sculpt additional pieces. So hypothetically, if I wanted, say, a gun on here somewhere, I could use some of the putty to try and sculpt a gun. So I filled in the holes with the putties and I filed them down a little. This is going to allow me to start painting this. I'm still a little on the fence whether I'm just going to give the entire thing a proper base coat and work from scratch, or if I'm going to just use the existing colours bases and work up. I'm thinking I might spray this in a single cut, in a single base, and work my way up from that, just so that it hides some of the other bits a little better. I haven't quite decided. I'm still on the fence about that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a base for this, and the intention is that it will stick to the base. So you can see I have super glued the wheel, and I'm going to the reason I super glued the wheel is, one, so it doesn't roll, and two, I intend to cut and file away this bit so it's a little smoother. You can see I've cut away the missile firing sequence. I have glued sort of the front panelings together and to the toy itself. I've also glued down the seat so that none of the action features now work. The reason for that is because I want this to be essentially a display statue, so it's not going to be playable in any way. I will eventually glue on the stormtroopers. If I've just done another video where I've just purchased a jet trooper who is going to sit on the back of this as the companion to the driver, so he can aim and shoot towards the rebels. So eventually he's going to sit on here and hold on. The blaster I will customize a bit and then stick that into here. But yeah, there we have the first stage of this. The next stage I want to do is create a base for this. So let's move this out of the office and I will show you what I've got for the base and how I plan to start that. Okay, so I've bought some foam board. My intention is to draw out a small base for what I want. I will then cut that away and then I think I'm going to sculpt it a bit so it's not just a simple rectangular surface. Once that is done, I'm going to get some Mod Podge or the off-brand. I've got just some basic Hobbycraft version, which is basically just a sealer. It's so I can paste that on here and along the side so that I can then paint or mold on top as I need, without fear that whatever I'm putting on top is going to absorb through into the actual foam itself and cause any problems. I originally just tried this yesterday evening with some double-sided cardboard and I layered that. Unfortunately, I found that the cardboard warped and it just wasn't as thick and as sturdy as I wanted. So I have decided to move to using this foam board. So I don't want the base for the speeder to be overly large. I just want it big enough so that it essentially frames the speeder. So I'm placing it about halfway of where I'm imagining I'm going to cut, and then I'm just going to draw a couple of simple lines, and I'm going to cut this out in a rectangle shape to begin with so that I can save as much of this for other projects I have lined up. So I'm just going to I'm literally just eyeballing this like so. That's a little narrower than I wanted. Come up a bit, come up and come out a bit, just so I've got a little extra to play with. Rather end up having too much than not enough, just so that I've got a little more to play with, and then it should just be a case of cutting through this. I'm going to sculpt this so I'm not too worried about this being perfectly straight. I just want a workable space. There we go. So that I think is going to be a nice starting point. I then think that I'm essentially going to come down about there, so I've got some background. I want more of a curved base, doesn't even need to be perfectly straight. You can see I'm just sort of mapping out something in my mind rather than there. Yeah, I think that's reasonable to what I'm wanting. Then I'm just going to literally carve away. Well, if this doesn't work the way I want it to, I've still got plenty of board to play with. If you're doing something like this at home, please be careful. You don't want to accidentally cut yourself or hurt yourself in any way. Ideally, I would have a hot wire or some sort of professional cutting tools, but I don't, so I'm just literally working off what I have. If I had all the money in the world for the things I wanted, I wouldn't have. There's plenty of additional tools I would quickly go out and get myself for these various little projects I like to do. You can see even as I'm going through with the knife, I'm not being that careful to my original plan. I'm not even sure how I really want it to look. It's just a base idea, and I'm hoping that I will be happy with how it ends up looking. Let's see. I can see myself using some of these bits as sand bins or some kind. I have never ever done anything like this before, so I am literally making this up as I go along. This is going to be a lot of trial and error. I've never used Mod Podge before. I've also got some modelling paste, again, which I've never used before, to cover this. The idea is eventually this is going to be almost like a sand dune with the speeder racing across it. I do know that I want the speeder at a slight angle, and eventually there will be an acrylic rod holding this up a little, but the rest of the base is being made up as I go along. I don't like that bit, that bit's coming out weird. That's fine. I'll just cut that away. And there we go. Right. Next is, do I want some sand here? See, I really like that piece. Yeah. Such a nice piece, I can't pass that up. That's going to go there. Yeah. Maybe another piece at the back here I can see myself using. Okay, so the first stage is I'm going to go get some glue and paste these on. So I've glued these down with PVA glue and they're holding nicely in place. Now I'm going to cover this in a protective seal using this Decoupage medium all-in-one glue sealer and finishes. It's Hobbycraft's off-brand Mod Podge. crafting sticks to help me paste it over. I might have to put 2 gloves on to be safe. Unfortunately, these gloves I've got are a little on the small side for me, but they do work. You can see I've got a safety mat down. It's literally just a kid's party table mat I found in the pound shop, in a charity shop for £1, and it was like, this is perfect for what I need. Is this sealed? No. So I'm just going to paste a load of this over, grab a stick and just start working it as a sealer. So it's going to go all over. Work it all over the corners and the sides. The sides especially, because that is where the foam is open. So I don't want it getting into the foam and causing issues. I would strongly recommend you do this in a well ventilated space. I currently have a utility room with our back door open. I'm just going to use my hands, make it easier. That wasn't working quite as well as I wanted it to. So I'll just take this one wearing the gloves just so I can literally work the paste over like so. I'm just going to get some more. Right, this time I'm actually just going to put it straight on my fingers and rub it over the fingers a little, and then literally just rub it all over the sides. Get it in there. That's it. Use a little bit more. There we go, come on. More. Then, once this is dried, I am going to get some paste and put the paste on to sculpt the layering I want. Don't worry about the underside. There we go. There we go. That's everything sealed up. I can put that to one side and let that dry. So there we go, that was the first stage of this done. That was easy enough. It's certainly coming together as I was hoping. Hopefully that will stay this way. Now I just need to try and take these gloves off. There we go. So